So Bungie just dropped a blog post talking about all of the weapons we are getting with the Into the Light update in 2 weeks. The majority of the blog post is Bungie explaining why these are the weapons that are coming back or what the reasoning behind it was. But today I wanted to cover the roles these weapons can get because my god, Bungie has given balancing the metaphorical middle finger with this batch. I plan to cover all 12 weapons, but we'll do so in a rapid fire style so that I'm not wasting your time. Furthermore, we'll be covering the 6 weapons that will be available on April 9th first, then cover those 6 weapons that will drop in the weeks after, as Bungie has confirmed that every week after Into the Light's launch, we will see a new weapon enter the loot pool. If you'd like to skip to a certain weapon, then check the description below for the timestamps, but otherwise, I'm SniperKH, and let's dive into it. So let's just go ahead and get this first one out of the way since I don't think too many people really care, as we have the Jury SR4. I want this weapon out of the way first since it's been brought back several times and kinda has no point in being here, but I digress. Anyways, for PvE, you have a wide variety of perks to go for, but in column 3, I'd recommend rewind rounds, rapid hit or shoot to loot, and in column 4, I'd recommend explosive payload. Any combination of these perks will suit you well for PvE content, which is where I find this weapon to succeed the most. Other than that, the god roll hasn't changed too much and the perks aren't too exciting, but stick around because some weapons coming up are ridiculous. But to keep things moving, we have the Succession, which will be available alongside the Jury in the next 4 weapons for free on April 9th. The formerly Deepstone Crypt exclusive sniper rifle will officially be obtainable for free-to-play players soon, and honestly, I'm happy for them, as the sniper is pretty solid for PvE despite most snipers not being too hot right now in PvE. For the god roll, I find Reconstruction to be the best perk to go for on this weapon, as Reconstruction will allow this weapon's magazine to overflow to a ridiculous number of bullets, which is super nice. For column 4, I'd recommend Vorpal Weapon or Firing Line, depending on which activity or what size fire team you find yourself playing in the most. If you're a solo player, Vorpal Weapon will serve you the best. Otherwise, a Firing Line should be your go-to thanks to its 20% precision damage boost. Overall, it's pretty cool to see this weapon come back, but the next weapon on this list has me even more excited. Next up, we have the Falling Guillotine. This sword made its debut back in Season of the Arrivals and is back, this time with a banger perk pool that could potentially put the slammer to shame shortly after its debut. Regarding what roles to get, for column 3, I'd advise you to go for either Vorpal Weapon, Relentless Strikes, or Frenzy. I know that recommending Vorpal Weapon on a heavy weapon in 2024 is kinda cringe now, but with the perk that resides in column 4, it might be worth it. Speaking of column 4, you should grind for either Surrounded, Eager Edge, Sword Logic, or Bait and Switch. If you're grinding for a damage focused sword, then Vorpal or Frenzy with Bait and Switch could be insane for DPS, while an all-around sword would want you getting Frenzy and Eager Edge. Regardless of what role you get, I guarantee you this weapon has some serious potential to be a future classic. Speaking of classics, the next weapon on this list is an easy classic, and with it returning on April 9th, I'm beyond excited, as we have the Recluse. The Recluse was once the most feared SMG in Destiny 2, and with its return soon to be upon us, I think it's fair to say that we might see that fear coming back soon. Regardless of what roles to grind for, I'd highly advise you go for Feeding Frenzy, Subsistence, or Repulsor Brace in column 3, and Master of Arms, Frenzy, or Destabilizing Rounds in column 4. Seeing this weapon come back with these perks is super exciting, and imagining it being paired with builds like the Falcon's build is what is keeping me going in the mornings, and therefore, this will be a weapon I grind for once it releases. Speaking of another classic, we have a weapon that is a Destiny classic, though not really for the reasons that you would think it would be, as we have Edge Transit. Edge Transit was a grenade launcher infamous for its obscenely high drop chance from back in Forsaken, and it is now back, but this time with some stupid perk combinations. For column 3, I'd highly recommend Cascade Point, Field Prep, or Envious Assassin in column 3, and in column 4, Bait and Switch or Explosive Light are the only two that are really standing out for me, though Bait and Switch definitely wins this one. For me personally, I will be grinding for an Envious Assassin and Bait and Switch role, and also a Cascade Point and Bait and Switch role, because this weapon has some serious potential to be insane in the final shape, especially since grenade launchers are expected to be getting a buff going into the final shape. Overall, a very hyped weapon to get. For the final weapon dropping on April 9th, we have Elsie's Rifle, which was the Destiny 1 weapon that was rewarded to you after completing the campaign. I doubt many of you will even remember this weapon, so I won't spend too much time on it, mainly since it doesn't really have any major PvE perks. For PvE, I'd recommend Rewind Rounds in column 3 and Destabilizing Rounds in column 4. This weapon is definitely a PvP focused weapon though, so for the PvP god roll, try getting Keep Away in either Kill Clip or Head Seeker, as that will allow you to fry your opponents. Otherwise, this is the only weapon from this update that I'm not too keen on getting. So, now that we've covered the first 6 weapons, I'm going to go through the final 6 relatively fast. As a quick note, we don't know which weapon will be released on each week, so for formality purposes, I'll be listing these weapons in order of their appearances in the blog post Bungie dropped. For starters, we have Forbearance. I find it kind of funny how the weapon to power creep Forbearance is none other than Forbearance, so well done Bungie. Anywho, just go for the usual Forbearance god roll on this weapon, being Ambitious Assassin and Chain Reaction, and you'll have your hands on the best ad clear weapon in the game. Next up, we have the Mountaintop, which I'm super excited to see return, as this could be a great weapon for PvE. Looking at its perk pool, there's a pretty clear winner here. For column 3, I'd recommend autoloading Holster, though Demolitionist or Lead from Gold isn't too bad, and Vorpal Weapon for the increased damage towards bosses. All I'll say for this weapon is that once it makes its return, get to grinding because this weapon will be nuts. Continuing on, we have a fan favorite LMG and that of Hammerhead, which was teased with some phenomenal perks. For column 3, I'd recommend destabilizing rounds, rampage or rewind rounds, and in column 4, I'd recommend onslaught or killing tally. I truly believe that with any combination of these perks, you'll have access to one of the best LMGs we'll get access to in Destiny 2, especially for in-game PvE. Continuing the Black Armory hype, we have the return of Blast Furnace, which was an amazing PvP pulse rifle from back in the Black Armory. I'm happy to say that this weapon returned with some amazing perks. If you want a PvE role, then Shoot to Loot in column 3 and One for All, Frenzy or Rapid Hit could be a pretty fun combo. One role that caught my eye was Kinetic Tremors and One for All, as if Kinetic Tremors could proc One for All, this could be a really fun pulse rifle to use. For PvP, I'd highly recommend the tried and true Keep Away and Kill Clip or Head Seeker. Regardless of which roles you get for which purposes of the game, this pulse rifle will come back as an amazing pulse rifle just as it left the game. Next we have Luna's Howl, which was a popular hand cannon back in Forsaken thanks to its access to a perk that would allow it to 3-tap despite its archetype not being able to do so otherwise. This hand cannon is definitely a PvP focused hand cannon, so because of that I will solely be focusing on the best roles for that. For column 3, Eye of the Storm could be a fairly good perk to go for, but the clear winner here for me is Slide Shot, which will buff this weapon's range, which will be necessary. For column 4, you could go for Opening Shot, but once again, the clear winner here is the reprised perk Magnificent Howl, thanks to the rework it's getting, which will allow it to turn into an altered version of Hawkmoon's exotic perk. I'll be honest with you all, I truly believe this weapon has some serious potential to be the best PvP hand cannon, and you can mark my words on that. Alright, we're now on to the one weapon I am most excited for with this update, and that is none other than Midnight Coup. This hand cannon was once the best hand cannon in Destiny 2, as it had a smooth feeling to it, a crisp sound, and was a powerhouse in PvE. Well, it'll be back soon, and it's coming with some pretty banger perks. In column 3, I'd advise you to go for Shoot to Loot or Explosive Payload, and in column 4, I'd recommend Kinetic Tremors, One for All, or my personal choice, Frenzy. Getting any combination of these perks will turn this weapon into a monster in PvE and gives it potential to be the best legendary hand cannon for PvE. And because of that, you best believe that I will be no-lifing Onslaught when Midnight Coup is available. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and trust me, I say ladies lightly, that will wrap up today's video. If you found it helpful, a like rating would be greatly appreciated. Also, consider subscribing to the channel for more Destiny 2 content. I do hope to be streaming more once Into the Light releases, so if you'd be interested in tuning in and joining for some Onslaught runs, then follow me on my social media platforms or consider joining my Discord server for updates on new content and my live streams. With that being said, I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.